Today what we're going to do, well, what I've already done, I'm just going to show you what I've done, is I'm going to address a problem on the front of these cars. Now, I've already addressed this problem, but this is actually a Mazda motor, and it's running the Mazda 4-cylinder setup. Now, a problem I had when I ran my Mazda 3 is that this is the oil filter. It's a canister-like filter that just bolts right to the front of the motor, and it's got an oil pressure sensor kind of built into it. So this was right here. Now on the Mazda 3 there's no actual front subframe, so it was more open to getting smashed off. Let me just get this light in here and see if you guys can see this. So what I've done, I wanted to do this on the Mazda, but I just never did it because I didn't really think it'd be an issue, and it turned out it was an issue. As I built a block off plate, I drilled a whole bunch of holes, and then I used a Dremel bit to kind of loop them back and forth. Now, is this going to work? I think so. Honestly, I don't see why it wouldn't work. This here was leaking quite a bit of oil out of it anyways, so this had to be either fixed, replaced, or deleted. So I went with the deleted option. Now, I haven't tried running it with this. I have ran it without the oil pressure sensor in it, and my Mazda 3 actually got that smashed off of it, and same as Cassandra's Mazda 3. So I do know these motors with the Mazda setup will run without the oil pressure sensor, but I'm not 100% sure if this one will. I don't really see why it wouldn't, but gotta figure it out, I guess. But I like this little setup. I wanted to do this on the Mazdas, I just never did. So now that I have the Fusion, and I kind of want this Fusion to do pretty good, I'm going to try it out. So I'm going to toss this in the trash and kind of hope that this thing works. I took out the factory gas tank, so I can't really start it up to give her an old-fashioned try, but I don't see why it wouldn't. But we're just going to have to figure that out. Maybe I'll throw the gas tank in and try it, but I think she'll be okay. I don't see why she wouldn't. How I made this was I just took a drill press and I drilled a whole bunch of holes into it, and then I don't have a CNC machine, so what I did is I put a Dremel bit into my drill press, and then I just kind of moved it around where I needed it. You know what, having the wrong tools does not make it so that you're doing the job wrong. Sometimes it just makes it so the job takes a little bit longer. I guess that's kind of backyard mechanicry, I guess, but I don't know. Seemed to work out pretty good for me. Now I just have to give her the old-fashioned test start and see if she works. So we'll probably get a gas tank in it, and then we'll give it a good old-fashioned try. So what I'm going to show you guys how to do today is a basic gas tank holder. Now a lot of you guys will run 3/4 through the floor, and you know what, there's really nothing wrong with that. This is for a pretty much stock build here. I call these things gas tank brackets. So it's a whole bunch of angle iron. As you can see, I've already modified this one to fit bigger tanks. I wouldn't really recommend doing this. I'd recommend building one to the size of your tanks. And then I just drilled random holes in it, and I put it in the vehicles, and then I drill my holes. So this tank bracket is held down with 4 3/8 bolts. 2 here and 2 on the far side. Now this is great for stock. This is not the very best for weld or mod or light weld, but honestly, I like this. For stock classes, I think this is perfect. It makes it so your gas tank can sit flat. You can put spacers and shims underneath it to make the tank sit flat. And I'm basically just going to put my tank inside here. I'm going to throw a ratchet strap over it, and I'm going to start running my fuel lines to the front. Well, this one here doesn't have a return line, so I'm going to run my fuel line to the front. And then I'm also going to show you guys how to wire up this tank, because I've been getting a lot of questions about this. I do not like to use the factory wiring for my fuel tanks, especially in Ford products, because Ford products have an inertia switch. And if you're wondering where the inertia switch is on this Ford, this Fusion, I did find it. It is right there on the inner passenger wheel well in the front. So that's where the inertia switch is. But let's get the gas tank in, get our fuel line ran, and then see where we go from there. Now once you have your box installed, it's pretty much as simple as putting your fuel tank in, and then putting a ratchet strap over top of it. Now, I would not recommend cheaping out on a low quality ratchet strap right here. And trust me, I know from experience, I've had the ratchet straps come off inside the ring, and it really sucks when these ratchet straps come off, because then your fuel tank comes around, smashing around the car and everything. Now you could build your own brackets to be a little bit different, to where you use this 3/4 rod to hold the tank in. Or you know what? There's plenty of aftermarket people out there now building great gas tanks. But for stock class, you really don't need to spend big money. That's what's great about stock class. So there you go. That's not going anywhere. Take the extra ratchet strap, and I just wind her up and tuck her in underneath the tank or beside the tank so it doesn't look cluttered and dirty and anything like that. So there you go. Your basic gas tank install. Now let's run the lines. What we're going to do now is we're going to run our battery cables. Now, I run my battery cables, I'm going to say a little bit different than most people, but honestly, I've never really had any issues doing it the way I do it, and I'm going to recommend this way. A lot of people like to run positive and negative to the front, but I find that drains the battery quite a bit, and it just puts extra stress on your battery, makes your cables heat up more, and I find that does not work for me. Plus, you use twice as much cable. What we're going to do is we're going to take the negative. Now, it's already grounded right here, but we're just going to make sure this is really grounded. We're going to drill a hole, put a bolt through it. Now, this one right here, I've drilled 2 holes. Planning for this one to be for my... Oh, let me move that. Planning for this one to be for my battery cable, and this one to be for my fuel lines. Now, I know that is crazy sharp. I know that. I'm going to put cloth and protective stuff around my fuel lines and battery cables to get it in there. Now, the reason why I have 2 holes is I do not like my fuel lines and batteries cables wrapped together. So, pretty simple. Right here is a point where they're going to probably get pinched, so this is where I like to keep them separate. Over there, I'll run them together until they get to the point where the battery goes to the battery and the fuel tanks go to the fuel tanks. So, how I run this is basically just jam her through. Make sure you get the cloth in there, just like that, so she's nice and protected. I'll probably even put more cloth in there. And then we're just going to bolt these 2 together with a bolt, and then wrap a whole bunch of duct tape around it and electrical tape just to keep it safe and away. Probably going to try to tuck it down because that kind of looks like it wants to hit the hood, and that's a bad thing. So let's get this all electrical taped up and everything, and then I'll ground out the negative, and I'll be right back. So this is what I got done. I got the positive all taped up, a lot of tape, electrical, then duct tape. And then the negative, I just have grounded to the actual car. That's part of the thing that used to hold the breather box. So I know that's a good ground. And then from there, I came to the interior. The battery cable runs across the wiper tray, through the air box, and down to here. See it coming through the air box, so that way there's no way the hood can pinch it. Comes over and goes to the positive. And then the negative I've disconnected right now, but it runs right there. You see that cable? And then it just grounds to the car. So then that way, all you have to do is run 1 cable to the front of the car. So now that we got the battery all hooked up, now we can get the fuel tank hooked up. And I'm going to show you guys how to do the fuel tank. It's almost the exact same. I ground the fuel tank right beside the fuel tank. See the blue wire? That's the ground. I just ground that right to the actual body of the car. I find a good spot. I actually know where there is a good spot, where the old fuel pump used to be grounded. And then we just ground that out and start running it. Oh, that dinging's going to drive me crazy. Even if I pull the key out, it still continues. So here's what we have. We have the battery moved. This looks like a massive cluster of wiring only because I pulled it away from the door. If I push it back, it would look a lot better, but realistically, I want all these wires away from the door anyway. So you see that blue wire? That one that attaches to the positive on the battery? That goes from there to that toggle switch right there. I'm going to mount that toggle switch. From the toggle switch, it goes into the dash and comes to this emergency stop on the roof. Now, why do I run 2 toggle switches? And the reason is I hate reaching up on my roof to turn everything off. So I leave this one on the roof on, and I only turn the one in the interior on and off. But if there's a problem in the track and the officials say that they want to turn off my fuel, they can easily hit that on the roof and it will turn off my fuel. So then it comes from this one on the tank back to the dash, follow the blue wire back all the way to the tank. Just connects right there, and then it goes to yellow and connects to the tank, and then the blue wire at the tank just goes to the ground. Now I'm sorry that everything's kind of unicolored, but I don't really have a lot of wires. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the fuel pump on. I don't have the fuel lines hooked up. I want to see how old the fuel is inside this car. Ah, that fuel looks pretty old. See how it's all yellow? So this fuel looks pretty old to me. So what we're going to do is we're going to drain all this fuel out. What I'm going to do is just put a big pail and run the pump so it cleans all the stuff out of the tank. Because I do not want to be running this type of fuel in my derby car. That's a problem with storing all your gas from last year. I guess I'll use this to start fires or clean car parts. But so that's about it for today. I think tomorrow what we'll do is we'll hook the fuel lines up to the motor and do all that. This video feels like it's been a long video. Everything from the oil filter delete to mounting the gas tank to mounting the battery. So it feels like it's been a good video. But I'm just going to get this drained and then come back tomorrow. We'll hook up the fuel lines and then we will put a push button. I won't even put a push button. I'm just going to make it so I can touch 2 wires together to be able to start this car, because I unplugged the transmission, so it won't start with the key. We'll get all the wiring up off the seats into the dash and run the fuel line. So make sure you guys come back tomorrow. Thanks very much for watching. Hopefully this answers a lot of your questions that you guys have been asking about how to wire up your fuel tanks and your batteries. This is how I do it. Some people will do it differently. Some people are going to say, how come I didn't put a fuse in for my fuel pump? I don't want to go out because of a fuse. Like if I get hit and that wire grounds out and that fuse blows, my car dies. Now, I'd rather go out in a ball of flames than go out because of a fuse. So I do not put any fuses in my actual wiring to the fuel pump or anything like that. So hopefully that answers some questions. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow.